Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to Drums and Drams. My name is Cameron, and today we have another episode of Quick Sips. Now, on today's episode, we're going to be taking a look at this Penelope 4-grain bourbon finished in Rosé casks. This is actually the second batch of Rosé finished bourbon coming to us from Penelope. The last batch, the inaugural batch, hit shelves sometime in 2020, and right now it is July 2021 when we are beginning to see batch number 2 trickle out and hit shelves in select markets across the US. Now I'm going to quickly give you a rundown here of what's actually going on here in the bottle. As I mentioned, this is a 4-grain mash bill. It is actually made up of 3 different bourbons blended together that Penelope has sourced, and the final mash bill is 75% corn, 15% wheat, 7% rye, and 3% malted barley. So we have a high corn content, wheat as the secondary grain, and with those two things you can pretty much expect a sweeter bourbon, a little bit more of a maybe grain forward and well-rounded bourbon here, but again, it's a blend of 3 mash bills that end up constituting this final 4-grain blend. The final age here of that blend is between 3 and 4 years old, and it's no secret that Penelope is sourcing this bourbon from MGP in Indiana, as so many young companies do, but I've got to knock them on one thing here. On the Rosé cask finish bottle, they only list the fact that Penelope bottled this. They don't list where it was actually distilled. And on all of the other Penelope bottles that I own, the barrel strength and the private selects, they do mention the fact that it was distilled in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. So I don't know if it's just a fluke that they didn't include it on this bottle or not. But, we like to see transparency. We like to pick up a bottle and see where it's distilled and where it's bottled if they're different things. And so I've got to, kind of knock them a little bit on this one in particular. But again, it is a sourced blend of 3 different bourbon mash bills from MGP between 3 and 4 years old, 75 corn, 15 wheat, 7% rye, 3% malted barley. It's a 94 proof offering, a nice sippable proof, and it is non-chill filtered, which of course we like to see that as well. Let's go ahead and nose, taste, and evaluate this thing and see what we get. And then we'll kind of wrap this video up with some final comments on this bourbon and also Penelope, the brand as a whole. So let's go ahead and start now on the nose and see what we get. All right, so this is an amazing nose right off the bat. Yeah, there's a little bit of youth kind of showing through. Yeah, there's a little bit of ethanol. We might talk about that in a little bit more depth here in a second. But the main thing I'm getting on the nose is a great combination of sweet and spice. Yeah, there is a very sort of all-encompassing vanilla cream note here that you cannot get away from. It's sweet, it is rich and decadent, it smells delicious, it smells like dessert, and I've got to say, the first impression here on the nose is a really, really good one. Yeah, so you get some corn grain notes. That's that youth kind of shining through. That vanilla note is really present. You get a lot of citrus going on here as well, which honestly is interesting. You tend to get a lot of citrus on, some of the high rye bourbons from MGP. This is only 7% rye when you have the final 4-grain mash bill, but you get a lot of lemon zest going on here. If I had to liken it to something, I would say this is almost like a lemon cake drizzled in like a really heavy vanilla cream or vanilla syrup. Yeah, but there's also something really fruity about this, like a nice sour green apple note. It's very tart, and you get some nice berries as well, like strawberries. It's a lighter nose overall, a sweeter nose overall. I've got to assume that the Rosé cask is bringing in some of those, lighter and sweeter notes. It's helping to round this thing out, take away some of the youth, take away some of the sharpness that you would expect from such a young 3 to 4 year old bourbon from MGP. And overall, it's just deliciously decadent and dessert-like on the nose. That's a great alliteration there. Yeah, some white pepper, a little bit of cinnamon, but nothing heavy baking spice about this. No black pepper. It's just light and sweet and playful, and it's a great nose. So let's go ahead and go to the palate here and see what we get. Cheers. Oh my gosh. As soon as this thing, I can't even talk. As soon as this thing touches your tongue, it's all just this really rich candied vanilla sweetness and just sugary sweetness on the tongue, but also a ton of just this like sour tart fruit element as well. I would say on the nose, I got more, maybe more spice going on. Whereas on the palate here, it's really, really trending towards sweet and sour, sweet and tart, something like that. But, even with that slight difference between nose to palate, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. You still get this really rich vanilla going on here. You get all of that lemon zest, that lemon cake type component that I mentioned. All of that fruit tart, fruit sourness going on. It's just, this thing is great. I got to stop talking. I'm going to have another sip now. Let's see if this thing stays consistent, if it veers off or anything like that. Wow. Oh. So second sip loses some of the spice, loses some of the white pepper and cinnamon spice. It trends more now towards some of the fruitier notes, some of the more tart notes, but also there's now some like a floral quality to this. You get a little floral quality, you get a little almost perfume, I guess, like a perfumed note, and a little bit of ethanol. So even though this is only 94 proof, it's not barrel strength, you do get a little bit of an ethanol note in this. I don't think it's off-putting, and I think it actually plays nicely with this perfumed quality that's starting to come out now. But it's just worth noting that there is a little bit of some of that like white dog or grain neutral spirit type note in this, that ethanol quality. And you can really attribute that probably to the youth of this particular whiskey. Yeah, and when you go back to the nose, now, after having a couple of sips, you do get a little bit of oak. So for such a young bourbon to have that additional oak, it's a great thing. It's not overbearing by any means. It's very, very balanced. And I would have to assume there that you're getting that additional oak from the secondary cask finish. So let's have one more sip here and then we're going to wrap this up. Yeah. This is a fantastic bourbon, especially if you're looking for something with a little bit of a lighter flavor profile. I would say this drinks over its proof. It's at 94 proof. It drinks more like a 100 proof bourbon here. That's a great sippable, everyday type proof. I think this thing really, really knocks it out of the park in terms of like an everyday drinker. It has those really sweet notes. It avoids any dark, heavy notes. It's not an Elijah Craig barrel proof. It's not even an Elijah Craig small batch. It doesn't have those kinds of qualities. It really is, sort of as the label suggests, this white label, this very chic, modern look. Whatever that is visually to you, that's what this thing is on the palate. I mean, the entire package of what this bourbon is, from the marketing point of view, from the visuals, all the way through to the flavor profiles, is completely consistent. And I think that's why I find myself gravitating towards Penelope so much at this point. Like, at first I thought, when I saw this bottle, this barrel strength bottle, and in all of its beauty, when I first saw it, I thought like, oh crap, this is just a bunch of marketing, mumbo jumbo. It's not. Everything ties together so nicely between the colors they choose for the labels and how that relates to the flavor profiles, to the fact that this is, again, such a modern look and has a lighter flavor profile. It's got this Gen Z feel to it, using rosé casks of all things. It's all just, it's just fantastic through and through. The entire package, the entire experience. Yes, it's young whiskey. Yes, they're finishing in rosé casks, which is unusual and different, but I think it yields a great result. And if they end up using older and older whiskey as the years go on, this stuff is only going to get better. So I don't know. I don't really have anything bad to say about it. It's fantastic stuff. The price point at $65 MSRP for the rosé cask finish. Yes, it's a little steep for like a 94 proof whiskey. I understand that. I understand that it's young for that price point, but it's unique. It's a great everyday option. I absolutely love this stuff. I have a backup bottle that I'm going to really hang on to. And if you see this rosé cask finish sitting on shelves or you know, at an online retailer or whatever, right around that MSRP of 65 bucks, to me, it's a no-brainer. It's an absolute no-brainer. Please pick this thing up. I didn't talk about the finish. It's a great finish. A little bit of tart, you know, tart fruit quality hangs on here, that green apple and that berry note that I talked about. Green apples and strawberries, really. The spice lingers in a really great way in the throat. It's not a Kentucky hug or anything like that. And finally, you know, that vanilla sweetness really lingers in the palate as well. So if you're looking for something that resembles the notes I've described today, light, sweet, vanilla, tart, that kind of thing, this is the whiskey for you. But that's all I've got for today's video. I know it was a little bit of a longer quick sip. I apologize for that, but I had to rant and rave about how just fantastic this whiskey is. So if you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, you know, click that bell notification button and turn on all notifications to find out when I'm going live at least once a week and when I'm dropping new content. If you're interested in supporting the channel and you want some access to, you know, different content, behind the scenes content, check out the Drums and Drams Patreon. That is in the description below. You can check out the different tiers there and the different rewards that I offer. But I think that's all I've got for this video. I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. And I'm gonna wrap up with a final sip of this Rosé cask finish from Penelope. So cheers, and I'll see you next time here on Drums and Drams.